Religion wasn't something I was interested in.
Yeah.
It felt like a fairy tale. But once I grew older, I just saw that this life that I was trying to live wasn't like fulfilling at all. At a young age, I just realized I need to take control of my future. It was very confronting to look myself in the mirror and I'm a Muslim, because I had this image of like Muslims are Arabs or Muslims are this. But the more you really learn about the religion, culture has nothing to do with it. This creation is beautiful. The stars that you see are light years away. And the way I found Islam and the way I found God is I always say two ways.
Before we start this episode, I want to flag that only 5% of you are subscribed to the channel, so please do consider subscribing, as it does help out the channel and does help bring out better guests in the future. I think that was like the first time I saw you on YouTube as well. You know, I think it was like 2 years ago. I saw this video. I can't remember the title. It was like, you know, how the nightclub turned me to Islam, something like that. Yeah. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this guy's got, you know, really good thumbnails, really good production. But obviously, like, the story was like, you know, quite unique, quite captivating. Can you tell us a little bit more about your conversion story, you know, how you came to Islam?
Definitely, man, definitely. Yeah, the funny thing actually about that video is that's the first video I took really serious actually. Because I all my life I shared content. I shared my journey from like entrepreneurship at a young age, and I grew up in a very like small town, so I did not have like my people around me. I was thinking big. I wanted more, but I didn't have like good people around me. So I used content to get to know people online, this and that, but very small. At that time of publishing that revert video, I had maybe 300, 400 like subscribers. Like it was very small, but it just was just my circle and everything. But I remember when I embraced Islam, I got a lot of questions, and we will probably dive deeper into that later, of course. But I got a lot of questions from clients, from people around me, family, like friends and everyone, you know. And I was like, okay, I constantly need to share my story. Let me just sit down for a whole week and write down my story, like write down my story. And the more I did that, the more I was like, let me really make a good video out of this, you know. And then I can just share it with the people around me, so that if they really want to know why I did this, look that video, watch that video.
How did that story start? Because like you're from the Netherlands, right? And there's not like a massive like Muslim population. I think you had like a couple like Muslim friends and whatnot. But then where did you first get this idea? Like, you know, I want to start reading the Quran a little bit more. Like I want to explore like, you know, my faith. Like how did that journey begin?
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster actually. Where it really started and the seeds were planted, I think it's just in my youth. I had a youth with a lot of ups and downs, actually. It started very normal, just mom, dad, sister. I was raised up in a very small town in the Netherlands, like I said. And at the age of 7, was a bit of a interruption here and there. My parents got divorced. We went through financial issues, and just emotionally, it was very unstable. And I think seeing that as a young man at such an age, like 7 years old, you don't understand the world yet, but you are old enough to observe and start to think, you know, what is really happening. And I think from there, like, it just started like asking questions about life. What is this teaching me? Why is this happening, right? And in the beginning, it turned out, and I explained that, of course, on YouTube a lot as well, in a negative way. Wrong friends, like following desires and just seeking pleasure and trying to avoid maybe the pain or the things and the struggles that you actually had to face, right? But I was young, especially when I was a teenager, I'm more talking about right now. But once I grew older, I just saw that this life that I was trying to live wasn't like fulfilling at all, right? I saw the ups, the downs, even at a young age. I just realized I need to take control of my future, because otherwise I don't know where I will end up, you know? So I tried to start taking control of my habits. I saw the YouTube videos, the books, the self-development stuff, you know? That's where it all started, I think, just seeking more purpose in life.
Yeah.
And from a very young age, I always say, like right now that I'm Muslim, alhamdulillah, I can really feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided me all those years. I mean, I reverted when I just turned 22, but that whole journey started like at such a young age. And that, when looking back, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. And it's been a roller coaster. And like I said, at 15, 16 years old, I think I started to shift my mindset a little bit from like, okay, following my desires, especially at such a young age, it's breaking yourself mentally. It's draining. It's not good, you know, because you experience those peaks, but you also see what you have to sacrifice for it. At least if you look a little bit further, like the parties, the girls, or it's not worth it. It's really not worth it.
Yeah.
And I decided that I wanted to change slowly, but I started reading books, cold showers, like the routines, everything at 16 years old or so. Alhamdulillah, and then my business journey started. I went into business. I started to see my first successes. And then I felt like I started to build something, some more meaning in life, right? I had more control in life. I was building not only on my business, like financially, career, but also just like mentally, physically. I was going to the gym. It was just, I felt a lot more structure compared to everything that happened in my youth.
Everything just lining up in life at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So I started to feel the growth, but at the same time, it went a bit into my head, right? So I started traveling around, moving from this small city to Amsterdam, like the big town in the Netherlands, the capital. I started just spending way too much compared to what I was actually making at that time. And I just made huge mistakes. I think it was like from the age of 16, took me 2-3 years, like age of 18, 19 to achieve that. And it just broke down. It broke down.
When you're younger, you're always kind of like finding your feet. And I think like maturity and stuff comes with age.
Yep.
I wanted to ask, like, what was your kind of perception of Islam like before you started, you know, going onto this path? And then what was your perception? Like, how did that change? How did that mindset shift come across? Because I've watched a couple of your videos and I know you talk about, you know, when you first read the Quran and, you know, your experience in doing so. Can you talk to us a bit about that journey?
Yeah, definitely. So the interesting thing, and I shared this before, but the interesting thing when I decided myself to change my life, you know, to flip the script, like to start taking more control, I was very young actually, but and I think also that's why I think it's beautiful what you're doing and beautiful the whole thing of like sharing knowledge. I mean, I was very young. The only thing I had was my YouTube and my Instagram, and I saw these guys popping up, and like I thought there's another way. I can do something else. I can create things, but I didn't have people around me who thought like that, especially in this small city that I grew up, you know. So 16 years old, I decided to change the path of life. And I also saw the negative friends that I had around me and the influence that they are having on you, right? So I was like, okay, I was slowly getting rid of them a little bit because I was like, yeah, when they were inviting me, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do that. But then slowly what happened was a few friends, they stayed. And to my surprise, they were the Muslims at that young age, like 16, 17 years old. And why? Because Muslims were not drinking. They were waking up early to pray. They were talking in the breaks at school when we're sitting at lunch break or whatever. They were talking about meaning of life. They were really talking about serious things, not like gossiping around and everything, but just really beautiful conversations. We started hanging around more, and I don't know, it felt like brotherhood. Also the way they treated me and the way they treated their families. I mean, compared to the old friends that I had, I came home there and they were yelling at their moms. They were like, I mean, the Muslims didn't do that. They had like very strict rules and values, and it felt right, you know. At that time, I didn't like religion wasn't something I was interested in. It felt like a fairy tale, you know.
It's quite interesting though, because like, you know, I mean, I grew up in the UK. And, you know, it's very much heading towards like this atheist type route. Like most people I grew up with, I went to school with, either they were Christian or they're Christian and they're like becoming atheist. So you're either Christian by name or they're probably just spent their life as atheists. So it's interesting to see that, you know, okay, you're thinking about, you know, the meaning of life. You're thinking about, you know, God and all those other things. Because I feel like today people just kind of take it for granted, be like, oh, okay, you know, everything's like science, you know, and they just don't even like question it. Do you think that's kind of changing now, where, you know, this newer kind of generation that's coming up, because you are seeing this trend of more and more people converted to Islam in the West? Do you think like that's one of the reasons? And what do you think some of the other reasons are?
Well, there's a very interesting trend going on, I believe, because what you see happening is in the West, you see a lot more Muslims actually practicing more. You see a lot more people convert as well. But in the Muslim countries, the Islamic countries, you see it sometimes fade away a bit more. Muslims becoming more flexible. And I think the reason for this is the West has already experienced the peak in technology, luxury, like everything, right? And a lot of Muslim countries, it is happening right now. Like the mobile phones coming up, like the TikToks coming up. They see what the West world is doing and they are interested in it. But I believe that after you saw this whole wave in the last century of luxury, like materialism, like everything, the more you have, it doesn't necessarily like makes you feel better. Like I think it's even the opposite. You have now, if you compare our generation with my mom and dad's or my grandparents, they didn't have the same possibilities as us.
Yeah.
Like they didn't go to the club and this and that, and everything is just like there, you know, in front of like the PlayStation 5 gaming, staying up all night. Like it like even 2-3 generations ago in the Western world, it was very much more strict, disciplined. Christianity was much bigger. Religion was more common. There was more structure. And when all this luxury came, people became lazy. People became following their desires. Like they just got lost. And I think that's what really turns out right now. It's just facts. It's happening in front of our eyes. You see a split in society in the Western world. It's either you follow your desires, or you search for meaning. And when you search for meaning, I believe you will end up with Islam.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and to be fair, I completely agree with that. On the luxury side, but I also think it's like, you know, the types of values and stuff people are kind of following. I mean, growing up in like the 2000s, it kind of saw that things were going a little bit more, the left are going very left and like the right are going very right. And obviously nowadays, you know, there's very much like a polar opposite like divide in terms of people's kind of values. Before, I think growing up, it was like a little bit more in the middle, where you can kind of see that, okay, everyone's views kind of fit in like in this kind of lane. But I think, you know, as times kind of went on, things have gotten more crazy on one side and more crazy on the other. And eventually things always come like full circle. And I feel like we're kind of experiencing that at the same time, where people are saying like, okay, you know what, genders and, you know, what people say about sexuality, etc. Like, you know, people aren't like taking that anymore. And now they've kind of come back down to the middle and started exploring other things.
Yeah. I think the more wealth and luxury in a society like grows and comes, the more people are just, I don't know, losing themselves. Like for real, if you just go back to nature, and if war would break out again, people would be acting much more like normal. Like people would go back in the normal roles, normal responsibilities and everything like that. I just think like the more the luxury comes on your path and options you have, it's just like right now you wake up and people have an option. Do I want to work or no? Do I go to party or do I do this? Like, and I do think people are right now waking up more and more. You see, one generation ago, alcohol was much more common than right now. Corona, like the whole pandemic thing, I don't know how I can say it, but you can bleep it out. But the whole pandemic thing, of course, has also an impact on it. People are less social anymore and all of it. But you see that this generation is waking up. They are seeking more meaning because they feel that all this like dopamine stuff, it leads to nothing. Yeah. Really.
And to be fair, you kind of touched upon it there. Like, it's much more common in the West where things are good. You know, life is good. If you look at, you know, Eastern countries or developing countries, you know, they don't have the luxuries of, you know, having multiple genders and all this other stuff, you know. It's very much like a first world type of problem.
Yeah, 100%.
I wanted to ask you, like, I don't have that many, like, revert friends, but I feel like, you know, now more and more I'm, like, you know, coming across people who are thinking about converting to Islam or, you know, they've either, like, recently, like, embraced Islam. You know, what's some advice from me in terms of, you know, trying to like encourage people in the right way to come closer to Islam? Because I feel like even everyday people, like, you know, they have people coming asking them questions in the workplace, or they'll be like, oh, you know, I know you're Muslim and I was like, looking into this. What do you think is kind of like the right approach to, you know, say the right things? Because whenever someone comes up to me, I'm just like, oh yeah, you know, that's good, you know, let me know how it goes.
Yeah. Well, you asked the question here at the beginning of this podcast, like, okay, when did the interest in reading the Quran or this and that start? But that's not at all where it started. Like, not at all. Like, I was not interested in religion, not in scriptures, in all of that. I think that comes like after. There's a step before that, and that is just seeking purpose. Like you have a very big blessing, and that's that you are born as a Muslim. I think you are raised by your parents as a Muslim, right? And alhamdulillah, and if you are just born in this world as an atheist or coming from a complete other religion or whatever, you're just lost in life, actually. Like, what are you living for? You see people around you, like, being born, dying. Like, life is very weird, actually. But most people don't even think about that. So most people are just living their day-to-day life, responsibility, stress going on. They just do whatever they need to do right now, and they wake up tomorrow, they see whatever happens then. But I think if you would stop and just pause for a moment and realize that you're going to die, start there. Like, realize that you're going to die. And I think many people, if you just sit down and think about that just for 30 minutes, you will already start like developing some thoughts like, okay, but then what is actually the meaning? What do I want to do before I die? What kind of an impact do I want to make? And what is after that, right? Life is so temporary. What's then the meaning of it? I think you need to seek meaning first. The way I found Islam and the way I found God, actually, is I always say to two like ways. The first one that we just talked about is the society. Like, it's getting crazier and crazier, following your dopamine, all desires, everything. It leads to nothing. So you need structure, you need rules, right? If you determine rules and I determine other rules, we will have like issues. Now, let aside if you have a whole society thinking differently together, like it's just becoming a mess. So who's determining the rules? Is it this government or that, and other governments, different rules, messed up again? So you need something from above that determines what is good or bad, right? We all know that killing each other, that's not good, actually, but it still happens. So we need guidelines in life. So that's the first thing. And when I started looking more into that, starting from those general things, but all the way up to how do you do business? What do you do when you get married? The process of getting to know each other. All those things. Who determines what is right and what is wrong? And I think a lot of the issues are happening because we just disagree on values. Some people think this is normal, while other people really disagree with that. So society and the society like norms and rules. Second of all, I think it's also just looking further than just what is happening day to day. This creation is beautiful. Like we're floating on a planet in I don't know how big of a universe, subhanAllah. The stars that you see are light years away, and if you look how far just one light year is, like it's crazy. You cannot even like it's absurd. And also when I plant a seed and like a beautiful tree grows out of that while we don't have to do anything, and how our body functions. Like really sit down, think about that for an hour. Like how complex that is, and we take it for granted. Like there must be intelligence behind that, right? Like how did that came to place? Like how did you even, subhanAllah, like how do we function as humans? Our brain, like all the 100 million thousands of cells that are like processing, even while we're sitting here, we can see with our eyes, we can smell, we can breathe, and we don't even think about that. And I think if you really think about those two things, then and you really take your time to reflect and search and seek meaning, but people are not doing that.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem as well. Like people are just, doing what feels good. We kind of get told in society today, like, if it's not hurting anyone, then, it's perfectly fine. Whereas I feel like some people, eventually in their life, they do hit this point where they do try and find something, but it's, probably far too gone, or, going to Islam is probably like too much of a cultural shift when it comes to like, their families and the circles and whatnot. Yeah. And therefore like, they don't embrace it. But I like the examples that you give. Like I'm always like blown away when I speak to like non-Muslims, and you have like say something like an iPhone, and it would never cross their mind to think that this kind of just came to fruition, it just came to being without any designer or any creator. But then you have something even more beautiful, which is our bodies, it's the universe, it's the earth, and everything you described as well. And they just feel like it just appeared suddenly like that. Like it just blows my mind. Yeah.
It's just weird how people take all these blessings and these things for granted. But I think before you can throw religion in someone's face and tell them to read scriptures and this and that, it's just you start with seeking meaning. Like you realize, letting them realize that there must be more. And if that's not there, like then what is the point, right? Yeah. Like and that's like I think I also believe like being an atheist is you believe that there's actually nothing, like nothing after. Yeah. Then you have agnostic, like people who are believing there must be something, but they don't know what it is, but they believe there must be more. And I always can have much better conversations with agnostic people than like atheists, Atheists, they just put a wall in front of their nose and they don't want to talk. They're just like, I don't know. There must be.
Not for them, yeah.
Yeah, I cannot understand that. How?
Was there any like, what was like the biggest shock when it come to like accepting Islam? Was it something like, you didn't know, but then after Islam, you're like, damn, now we need to start doing this or something like this?
That's weird. It's just like I said, all the way from the beginning, my youth, I started seeking purpose, and I searched in all corners, but I kept coming back to Islam. And the funny thing is, even when I really look back, when I was 4 or 5 years old, first going to as a little boy to school, one of my best friends was a Turkish brother. I went there at home, and we had like nice like things, and it like these little things. I don't know how, like the whole class was just like white people, and there was one Turkish guy, and I was friends with him. I don't know how those things happen, but just if I really look into my life, I went in through all corners. I searched everywhere, but I kept coming back to Islam. And I didn't necessarily like that in the beginning because, Islam is portrayed in a very negative way sometimes. And I was having all these misconceptions low-key as well. I mean, I had Muslim friends and I thought there was nothing wrong with them. But you were hearing these weird things on the news and stuff. So it felt very weird, especially at that last phase, the last year before I actually reverted, because I started realizing more and more that it's the truth. I started asking very critical questions. Okay, but then how does this work? How does that work? And every time they gave an answer, I was like, wait, that I actually agree with that. That's scary. It scares me a bit, because then at some point I was like, and they were also telling me, then you're a Muslim. If you agree with all of this, you're a Muslim. I was like, what? It was very confronting to look myself in the mirror and say like, okay, I'm a Muslim, because I had this image of like Muslims are Arabs or Muslims are this. And but the more you really learn about the religion, you see that like race has nothing to do with it. Culture has nothing to do with it. It's beautiful. It's for all mankind. You know?
I think especially coming here to Dubai, like it's very multicultural, like very mixed. I mean, where I grew up, like I kind of associated Muslims with Pakistanis because that's like the only types of Muslims I know. Whereas you come here, you got people from like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, lots of Somalis, people from like all across the globe. What was it? Because you only moved here to Dubai, I think started this year?
Yeah, officially I moved here starting this year, but I traveled back and forth for a very long time already.
What was the thinking behind that to come here?
Different things, of course, from business purposes. You're at the center of the world. Actually, it opens up a lot of doors, network, everything. But of course, like as I referred to 2 years ago, and once I started traveling more and more to Dubai, I started to feel how it is to live here as a Muslim compared to in the West. It's just much easier. You have a mosque on every corner. You hear the adhan every single day. You don't need to worry when you order food if it's halal or not. Like, it's just it makes life easier. So I think that as well. And you have, because it's the center of the world and a very international city, you have Muslims from all over the world coming together here, right? So it brought me a lot of opportunities from network, from both business as just personal network, like having good brothers around you who can uplift you, who have a lot of like knowledge. I'm much closer to the Holy Lands here. Nice. It's a 2-hour flight, right? So it's beautiful. I went my first Umrah recently.
Amazing, mashallah.
Beautiful.
I want to ask about your Umrah in a bit, but I think something I always wanted to like speak about this because it's something that's been playing on my mind. Is just in terms of balancing this thing up about living in Dubai and like being like a practicing Muslim, because I feel as if in some ways it's brought me closer to my religion, but then in other ways it's kind of brought me a little bit away. And I'll tell you, I'll give you examples of each. Like definitely agree with what you said in terms of community here, brotherhood here. I like the fact there's lots happening. Masjids are very close. I hear the adhan from where I live. But then on the other side, I feel as if it's very, very luxurious. We both live quite central in the city. It's always very flashy. We can hear supercars driving by. We can see like supercars driving around all the time. And I feel as if I've been here just over 2 years now. It's kind of like it's kind of started to like play on me like a little bit. When I first came here, I kind of like the touristic kind of aspect of it, and I was like traveling around a lot at that time. But now I'm getting a little bit older, and I'm be like, is this the environment that I want to be in? I'm not sure, because like I kind of enjoy the lifestyle aspect of it, and there's definitely good parts of it. But at the same time, you can't really deny that it's like a very materialistic kind of place at the same time. Have you had those thoughts? I mean, how do you balance those?
Well, to be very, very honest with you, for some reason, the more I am here, the more my business are growing, and I have amazing network around me and high level brothers. And yes, the luxury is here. You're living in a big city, but at the same time, it humbles me more than I could have ever expected. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm surrounded with good brothers who have good priorities, but also because the contrast here is very big. You have all kinds of people. You have a lot of workers here. You have a lot of successful businessmen here. You see every type of person the whole day, and I think, I don't know, it humbles me for some reason. Also, when I compare it to living in the West also has its benefits, I believe. I reverted because of what I've seen in the West. Like, of course, like good examples are good teachers, but negative examples are also very good teachers sometimes, especially when I come back in the West, like in Europe. For some reason, my iman, like my belief, like in this whole religion, everything, it just gets boosted because when I come back, my family is observing me, asking questions. I need to take note of when I need to pray, and when we're going for dinner, I need to order fish or whatever. Like no halal, nowhere to be found. It's harder, but because it's harder, I don't know. It boosts to prove people wrong. You know. Also because I share my journey online, right?
Yeah.
So when I come back to the place where I was from, people see me like they are like, "What happened to this guy?" So. And I think the best form of dawah is being the right example.
Yeah.
But going back to your point here in Dubai, no, yes, we're living here in a very big international city. So whatever big international city you're going, it's always like much more busy and everything. I also believe Sharjah is a beautiful place. It's next to Dubai. I live in a place where it's much. I don't hear the supercars and the things and whatever. I live in a little bit of an outside area.
Did you move to Sharjah?
No, not yet.
No, not yet.
Maybe.
Maybe.
But right now, I'm living 10 minutes away from city center. We're right now city center. But I'm 10 minutes away, but I'm living in this community where it's super relaxed. You see, I'm next to a lagoon. You hear the birds flying around. It's very peaceful, very peaceful. I've stayed many times in Business Bay, in the city center, everywhere. But it's for me to, like, I cannot live like that. Like, honestly speaking, I need peace of mind. I need to be able to go out and go for a walk. Like, if I would walk outside of my apartment or house, like, and I would walk inside of this busy city that you have right over here, I think I couldn't. So I searched for a very long time to live a bit more peaceful. And I think Dubai has those different sides.
Yeah.
You need to be careful of where you are living and who you surround yourself with. Of course, we, alhamdulillah, have amazing brothers here, but I also see a lot of examples of people who talk very negative about their environment, because you have that here as well.
Yeah.
It's an international city. You can find everything.
Yeah, I think it's easy to fall into it. But I think what you said is fair. Like, Dubai definitely does have a mix. I feel like it's got like a bad perception where people only see like, the Palm and the Marina and like places like this, and they feel like, that's like the only places you have in Dubai. Where the reality is, like, you do have these nice communities, good brotherhood, like local masjids that you are like a little bit away from it. But yeah, I mean, I'm always just keen to get other people's perspectives on it. Yeah. Something I wanted to ask is, you kind of mentioned you went on Umrah for the first time. What was that experience like?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, it's indescribable. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It is now 5 months ago, something like that. I booked it together with a good friend of mine just 1 month before. I saw something on Instagram. I was like, I think I feel ready. For some reason, the first year, some brothers sometimes ask me like, do you think you want to go and this and that? I was like, yes, of course. Like, but I don't feel ready yet. I don't know why, but I said that because I felt like I had so much to learn still. Like, I didn't knew a lot about certain practices and this and that. And I was like, if I want to go there, I just want to be ready or so. And so I went there, and I regretted like that I haven't like went earlier. It was a beautiful experience, and especially because I'm living so close, like here in the UAE, tickets are not that expensive. You're 2 hours away from it. You could go for a weekend, like honestly. And I realized that when I went there, from the experience of the fact that you are realizing where you are walking, the whole history that I've been studying for the past 1.5 years, right? The stories that you hear of the Prophet, the companions, like everything is just beautiful. It's beautiful, and you are walking there, right? between the history and between the stories, and all people who are walking there are on the same mission, like millions of people. Honestly, it's beautiful. Like,
did you have like a certain expectation, before going there? What was it like? Was it different than what you thought it was going to be? Was it better than what you thought it was going to be?
So I actually felt when I saw that post, we went with a group. So I saw a post of a sheikh that said like, I'm going there in a month from now. I was like, I think we need to go. I felt ready. And the reason why I felt ready is I felt that I kind of completed my foundation. It's weird to say maybe, but I kind of really I needed time from the moment when I reverted to that moment to really feel in my bones that I'm a Muslim. Like I don't know. It's just you went from a complete different lifestyle to accepting Islam, learning the practices, getting used to praying, getting used to everything, And at that point, I just felt ready. I really felt ready, and I felt also ready to embrace a new phase of my life. Instead of being that guy who's just learning a little bit here and there, to really seeing this as like the lifestyle. And I wanted to go there because like your first Umrah, it's very special. You go there to clean up yourself, to make dua and everything. And that was my main goal, to just go there and embrace this new phase in my life. I had a lot of new goals and just preparing myself for that next step, and then it exceeded every aspect. Like also the people that I've met there, the knowledge that they have. When I came there, my YouTube channel was already, like the channels were already growing. But when I came there, I just realized, like, who am I? Like, I'm sharing my story. Like, people are watching to my videos. I cannot even open the Quran and read. Like, I cannot even read and understand Arabic. I just felt like urge to really learn more, to practice more. And a lot changed after that. I took a lot of aspects of my deen much more seriously. I got inspired by so many brothers. And yeah, just in general, seeing the Kaaba is beautiful, right? These little things, but I think it just gave me a very big iman boost.
Amazing, yeah. How has that reversion journey been? Before it, now after it. I mean, have you started to learn Arabic? How's that process been with you?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So after 4 months ago now, after my Umrah, even during that Umrah, I asked a lot of brothers like, listen, I need to start with learning more and because I saw these brothers traveling for their knowledge. So they were traveling frequently to Medina, Mecca, somewhere even students there of Medina University that I spoke to. I was so inspired of them. Some were traveling to Egypt, and some brother was saying, yeah, I'm traveling to Egypt next week and I'm going to lock in there for a month to learn Arabic more and this and that. I was like, what am I doing, And but I also knew that when I would come back, all the busyness of the project's business would come back, right? I took off that week, but I knew that it was coming. So I was like, okay, if I don't commit to something right now, I'll probably find excuses again. So I asked everyone around, can you give me some numbers of sheikhs or whatever? And at that time, I just texted the sheikh to start with my Arabic, with my Quran, tajweed, everything. Nice. And since then, I built a much better connection with the Quran. It's beautiful, man. It's
beautiful. Even for me, I'll say, growing up as Muslim, being born a Muslim, growing up as a Muslim, you kind of just get sent to the mosque, you get taught, this is how you read the Quran. You don't actually understand the Arabic. And so for a very long time, I felt like I have a surface level relationship with the Quran. You read the translation, but it's not the same thing. And especially when you're standing up to praying and you don't know what the word you're reciting, what they mean, and you're doing this 5 times a day in a day for a number of years. It's only very recently, I would say even the past 1 or 2 years, where I kind of there's a bit of a switch where I'm kind of do I fully appreciate what I'm doing? I say I'm Muslim, I'm practicing Muslim, I'm very outwardly Muslim, but internally, the things that I do to validate that Islam, going to the masjid or standing up for prayer, I don't fully appreciate that. I've not taken that to the maximum level. So recently, past couple of years, been doing a couple of things. One, trying to understand the Arabic a lot more, very specifically what I'm saying during the prayer, because that's the most important part. And the other part is just memorizing and doing my hifz of the Quran. So I did a fair bit when I was younger, but when you go to become a teenager or go to university, the time kind of just catches up and that goes on the back burner. But I feel like, especially the Quran part of it, I feel like that's important to have that relationship with the Quran. Like, if you have a friend that you only see, like once a year or like twice a year, maybe in Ramadan or, maybe in like a different occasion, you're not going to have that same relationship if with that friend, if you're seeing them every single week, you're coming to that meeting with, preparation and your focus, and, they're the only kind of focus and the priority for that type of week. Yeah. That's what I feel like now, now that I'm learning the Quran again, and it's good, it gives me, I feel as if, I'm taking my own religion a little bit more seriously. So that's something I'm hoping to like improve on, like a little bit as time goes on as well.
Inshallah, beautiful, man. Yeah, and I agree. Like, I think, especially for us Muslims, our religion is based upon knowledge, and the more knowledge you seek, the more you learn, the more your faith will grow, and the more you're convinced, you will become like that. That's for me what I truly feel. And also when I started learning the basics of tajweed and learning how to read and recite, you also really see how complex and beautiful the Quran is. And I for some reason, I just didn't realize that before I started. And I think a whole new world opens up the more you learn. And you can never stop learning in Islam. There are so many like sources and things and history. You can study. You can keep studying forever.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that makes me the most sad. Like, once you get past this age, like past your 20s, you feel like you're an adult. Your work takes over your life. You get married, your marriage kind of takes over your life. You have kids now. Your kids like take over your life, and like you never save that capacity or headspace to think about, what's my real relationship with Allah? What's my real relationship with the Quran? And years go by. You might only be in your 30s or your 40s or your 50s when you kind of stop and pause and realize, maybe I don't have the relationship that I need to have today. Maybe I need to spend more time kind of studying, because this is one of my biggest fears, that life kind of goes on autopilot. Like, my business kind of takes over, my family kind of takes over, and I never carve out that time, like physically, like go out of my way to make that time, to make sure that I am doing the things that's important, which is, focus on akhirah, whatever that may be. And to be fair, like, I think watching you, that's always been quite inspiring, because I know that you make it like a concerted effort to make sure that at least part of your like routine or your lifestyle, that you have those elements, whether it's, dhikr or Quran and this kind of stuff. Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about like your routine, because I've watched a couple of videos where we talk about this. Like run through your day, like what does that look like, and how are you incorporating your Islamic kind of habits in your routine?
Yeah. So I have a very different vision on the regular way of doing things in life, because yes, most people have that freedom until they are 20s, early 20s, and then the career starts and the families and the responsibilities. But I think many people are losing control on their life. Well, the main thing you need is control on your day-to-day tasks. If you don't control what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, then life will control you. And yes, when you grow older, you have more responsibilities, more things on your path, so you need to step up your game, right? And it will become harder, tougher, especially for us men. There's a lot of pressure on our shoulders, but not having a family yet and all of that stuff. But I have my...
soon, inshallah.
Inshallah. I have my goals and dreams and ambitions on that, and my vision. So, but when looking in general about like looking at schedule and your day-to-day schedule and routine, I think it starts with just wiping everything away, looking at a clean day and prioritizing. Start prioritizing. Start with your prayers. That's priority number one, right? For us Muslims, we know we need to pray 5 times a day. It's the first thing we will be asked about on the Day of Judgment. So that's priority number one. Then you need to look at sleep and like the real responsibilities that you already have no matter what. Most of the time work or something like that. In my case, running a business, remote, online, I can determine the times myself. So for me, it starts with sleep. So I look at, is it summer or winter? Because Fajr time and things, it can be a bit different, right? I do have different routines during the summer compared to the winter. Especially in Europe, it's not doable to to stay up and after Fajr and this and that in the summer, but in the winter is better. So it depends on that. Start with your prayers, outlining your prayers, making sure you have good sleep, because a lot of people, also business guys that I know, are sacrificing a lot of their quality time of sleep, and I think it's destructive for your body. Also, yes, career is important, the responsibilities are important, but if you stop prioritizing learning about the deen, taking care of yourself mentally, spiritually, and also physically. Daily exercise is a must for me. If I don't do that, I will feel miserable, you know? And I just think that people go from being young and having all the time, even though you're serious and you're studying the deen, this and that, the more responsibility comes on their path, the more they are feeling tired, exhausted, and the more they let those things control them instead of the other way around. So I think, yeah, you just really need to be carefully looking at your day-to-day tasks and prioritizing it. And we all have 24 hours in a day, and you have people crushing it. You have people building big things in life, and you have people who are not having enough time, walking around stressed and whatever. But we all have the same 24 hours. So I do think it starts with taking control and being efficient. And
yeah, it's up to us to take that responsibility, make the most of it. What you're involved in like a few different like business ventures, and also you got like the social media.
Yep.
Can you like split that up a little bit in terms of like, you know, what's like the different ventures that you have, and like, you know, what's kind of keeping you most occupied these days?
Yeah, so I started with business, like I said in the beginning of this session, at the age of 15, 16 years old. I started really actively looking around to start something. Legally, you cannot start a business at that age. You need to be 18. But with permission of your parents, and if they join and come and sign, then you can. But I needed to prove it first that I could do something. So I started hustling a little bit here and there. I started selling some little products that I bought, but that wasn't for me. Like the whole e-commerce game, I don't know, it just didn't work. But I always like to be creative. So I started with designing. I learned how to use the programs and design logos and business cards and these little things. That was the first thing I was thinking about. What do businesses need? Like logos, websites, these things. So I started just learning the basics of that and selling that. And at some point it started working. I also, after that, started a study graphic designing to learn more about it. And at the age of 16, at like 16 and a half or something like that, I convinced my parents to at least register a company on my name and start. So that's officially when the journey began. For the first 3 years, I was just a freelance designer, like doing some things while I was also studying. Alhamdulillah, it was great. But especially after 2 years, I just realized that if I would keep doing this forever and just selling my hours, like for just a fee, an hourly rate, then I wasn't gonna build freedom, right? So I turned it more into a business. I started hiring people. Even I was very young, but it was more contractors, so freelancers. I started starting with the same projects, building websites, increase the price, increase the quality, increase the delivery systems, everything, and just build a small team. And it gave me more freedom to focus on scaling the business, and there it really started to pop off, alhamdulillah. And since then, I stopped with design. I moved more to development because the website part and development was much more valuable for companies.
Yeah.
We started building software, doing marketing campaigns and more complex things, because the more value you can provide, the more you can charge. So from that perspective, I was just keeping focused on that. Alhamdulillah, now 8 years later, 24 now, businesses are almost automated. Alhamdulillah.
Nice.
We have created a structure in the companies where it gives me more time to really focus on my purpose right now. And my purpose comes with the content, the reason why I'm sitting right over here, right? On a Friday morning. Just to I don't know. I came from a very dark time. I've seen all the crazy stuff in my younger years, and I just want to spread some khair, some goodness in this dark world. And we're building on it. I've hired a whole team around the content production. I'm really taking it much more seriously. I want to build this into more a network of like a media machine where we can really inspire the Muslims, but also the non-Muslims at some point.
Yeah.
And also an infrastructure around it, product ecosystems. I want to start little apps and things, and like I have amazing ideas. And this is where I'm now focused on. I'm just starting on this beautiful journey. And of course, like on the other hand, businesses are still going. I'm more into looking to investing in software right now. We're making some steps here and there as well. So a lot of things. Like it started
guy, man, yeah.
with something simple, and it turned into something very big right now.
No, I'm excited for you, man. What's your advice for people looking to get into business today? Because ecosystem moves very fast.
Yeah.
You know, this person's saying do this person's saying do that. Like, what's your general advice to be like, you know, step one, this is how I would approach things again. You know, if I was 16-year-old Tom, you know, today this is how I'd be approaching this universe. Because you've done quite a few things, you've been around for like a little while. Like, what's your advice to a young Muslim?
Yeah, good question. I do think everything starts, like I said, with, of course, you can have the biggest dreams and you must dream as big as possible. But it starts with saving yourself, right? It starts with saving yourself first, because like you can have like these big dreams of like creating big impact in the world. But if you cannot build something for yourself first that pays the bills, that covers the just the day-to-day things, then life will be very hard. You have different stages in life. In the beginning, it's just surviving, right? You're just hustling around, trying something that works, trying to find something. But if I would really start over again, 16 years old, I'd look into AI. AI is huge. AI is giving crazy opportunities right now. I mean, it became more accessible 1 year ago with the whole ChatGPT thing.
Yeah.
And if you look at how fast this is going right now and how companies are missing out, like I would just start some consulting agency or whatever, look into a different niche or a certain business that needs optimization. I would just help them. But also in general, how I started with providing services, websites, marketing, everything is also easier than ever right now. All these companies still need that nowadays, but you have AI tools and still all those contractors that you can hire. You don't even need to learn any skills yourself. As long as you understand the foundations of business and sales, I think opportunities are everywhere.
Yeah, to be fair, I completely agree as well. The funny thing with AI is like you don't even need to know how to code or know how to like write software. And it's not as if you need to create this like really bespoke product that, you know, you're going to sell to like hundreds of users. I feel like the way you kind of described it is the best bit in terms of, you know, just solve it for one person, solve it for one business, like do it more like a consulting thing.
Yep.
I feel like for a lot of people starting off, they feel like, you know, they need to have this proper company and, you know, this really nicely designed product and everything has to work perfectly. When the best way to kind of start is, okay, let's find one person, one business, preferably, because they pay more and it's probably easier to sell to, and just like solve a problem for them. And the way AI is kind of changed everything overnight, you know, there's so many things that can be done today that's, you know, very different than it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing right now as well. But no, I think that's good. But no, always enjoying content. Excited to hear what you get up to next, and appreciate you coming on, Tom.
Beautiful, brother. Thank you for everything, and keep doing what you're doing, man.